HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time, and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Having It All, a podcast that explores the question, can we really have it all in life? My name is Matthew Bivens, and I believe that having it all means viewing life through a lens of abundance and love. You see, it's not about having anything, but instead about how we experience ourselves, other people, and life itself. In this podcast, my guests and I explore what having it all and creating your ideal life actually look like. We talk about the joy and contentment when you feel like you have it all, however it is that you define it. And we also talk about the profound and sometimes uncomfortable situations that you frequently must go through in order to create that ideal life. My goal with this podcast is that you walk away from each episode with new lessons that you can apply to your life, as well as real, raw stories of what having it all can look like. I want to spark the flame in your mind that asks, what does it look like to have it all in my life? So, with that, join me in having it all. How did you handle the last crappy situation you found yourself in? My guest in today's conversation is Dianne Crampton, and she would guess that you did one of three things. You either blamed someone else, ignored it altogether, or asked yourself the question, what is this here to teach me? Dianne has spent most of her life asking herself, what is this here to teach me? And that has led her to many amazing personal realizations and life experiences. Now, this conversation is quite special for me, as you will learn, because Dianne and I have had a back and forth pen pal-like relationship for the past year and a half on LinkedIn. And this interview that I have with Dianne is the first time that the two of us have spoken over the phone. It's the first time that we've actually heard each other's voices. So that's really cool. It's a special moment for us. And Dianne's brilliant. She has tons of wisdom to give. She goes into some details in here about how to uncover your values and your passion and your purpose. And she shares what I like to call the suit story, which is really interesting. And so, with that, no more teasing. Let's jump right into my conversation with Dianne Crampton. The conversation with my guest today actually started almost a year and a half ago on LinkedIn. We connected completely as strangers and began a dialogue of weekly back and forth messages that has continued up until today. It's phenomenal, and we've covered every topic from business to cooking and gardening to, that real life nitty gritty stuff that we all go through. She's like my virtual pen pal. So my guest is the founder of the Tigers Success Series, where she and her team work with committed leaders to build teams of employees who love their organizations. She's implemented her amazing system in organizations like Costco, AT&T, and Boeing. And her mission at Tigers is to create cooperation between employees and collaboration between departments. So, with that, I am incredibly excited to welcome Dianne Crampton to the show. Dianne, how are you being today?
I am being very happy, and part of that is we get to talk.
Yes,
This is
we
terrific.
do.
This is terrific.
This is our first conversation since we connected back in September 2014, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the first verbal
Yes,
conversation.
verbal. Isn't that fantastic? Like, I just want to take a second to recognize how freaking cool that is that we connected. And I was sharing this with you before we hit record, that I went back and I read through our entire thread, and it is incredible. Just the amount of usefulness, value that we were giving each other in the beginning with business and different things, and then sharing about our families. I was telling you about my wife, you're telling me about your husband and your son, and we just went in, and it was just so cool to me that we were able to create that level of trust and transparency. I don't know. I guess it was just the energy that we were experiencing between one another was powerful.
It is powerful, and I like you.
Well, that helps. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Dianne, I gave a little bit of information in the intro, but can you fill in the gaps for me and just tell me who you are, what you do, and share you with our listeners?
Well, I am a person who was really focused on just about everything. I was a person that was, sort of a high achiever, and we can talk a little bit about what high achievement sometimes is a symptom of.
Mm,
And but there was a period of time where I had worked myself up into a management position and was faced with a gut wrenching um, alternative, which was to continue working for that company in a management position and doing dishonest things. And I think the emotional dishonesty of just surprising employees with a layoff
mm,
was something that I just couldn't reconcile. Matthew, I looked at that and I said, that's not the type of person I am. These are not the values I subscribe to. At that time, I was beginning to understand what values were. I was in my early 30s, and I decided, you know what? I don't need this. I'm not going to do this to people, and I quit. So I was also at a process and a time in my life where not a lot of things were working. I had tons. I had a great house, had a super car. I had a daughter who was 2. I had a husband that I was out of step with. It wasn't really working. And I thought I had it all.
mm.
And the harsh reality was I didn't have anything. And what I realized when I was in that values clash as a manager in a company that wanted me to blindside employees and lay them off was that there's more to life, much deeper and a much deeper meaning to life. And it starts from the inside out, not the outside in.
Yeah, and
And
you had a lot of those. You had a lot of those outside things. You had
oh,
like you said, the cars and the house and all those things that many times society really tells us is quote unquote success.
exactly.
Mm.
But success is a feeling that comes from the inside out. And it's not what you have, it's how you be.
HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time, and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
So your question right off the bat, well, how are you being today, is a very important one. And I think what this took me into was a terrific inner journey to discover really why I'm on the planet, what it means to be, what my being ultimately means, and how that could resonate in a lifestyle and life work or life purpose that makes a difference from the inside out. So I started, that actually launched a huge question for me because I wasn't seeing all those success symbols like cars and houses and having things uh, to line up to what I considered a quality life. I wasn't seeing work that didn't line up with who I am being something that was leading to a quality life. I was looking at how easy it was for managers to make decisions to just cut people loose without any thinking about the repercussion of that. And sometimes it is necessary. So, what do you do that's ethical and honest when you have to? And so that put me into a question about what really is necessary to build a group of people, whether it's your family, whether it's your neighborhood, whether it's your city, whether it's your business. How do you build a group of people that are moral,
Wow.
quality focused? That there's a feeling of productivity, and they're cooperating with one another, not competing, not trying to knock somebody else back to get ahead, and are also very successful. But I was seeing that what we were just talking about a minute ago, success not really being the things you have. It's more of a feeling of being satisfied,
Yeah.
even though the goals that you achieved were really hard to get, but really feeling satisfied at the bone level for that. And as a result, that created this question of what is necessary to create a moral, ethical, responsible, productive, cooperative, quality focused group of people. And that not only changed my life, but it changed the whole focus of my work and what it means to create companies that are so powerful, Matthew, that the purpose that they have beyond just making money is inspiring to employees. And it's like it takes their purpose, the purpose for having this company, into hyperdrive, because the impact that they can have in their community, either building solid employable jobs for people, to how that relates to the country as a whole, how that relates to the uh, continent as a whole, and how that relates um, on the world, in the world as a whole, is what I started turning my attention to.
So what that makes me think of, because I'm sure there's people who are listening that are like, okay, great. So you found the question that you then pursued. And from that, you've created this business and you've helped organizations. But how do I find that question in my life? Like, how do I get that spark? And can you dive into maybe some of the things that you were doing at the time that helped to create that question or create that spark in the first place? Because I think a lot of people are sort of just going through life, doing what they're doing in their routine. They want that spark, they want that question to hit them that they can then dive into, but they aren't experiencing that and they don't know how to experience that.
And oftentimes, Matthew, they don't experience it until they are in phenomenal emotional pain from loss.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be that way, because I think when we start realizing that, and I realize this, I look at my daughter, I look at my son, I look at my husband. We've all come with certain gifts that are easy for us. Maybe it's the gift of influencing people. Maybe it's the gift of drawing. Maybe it's the gift of using words. I mean, you come with a certain gift. Math problems. Ooh, that's a gift I don't have. But it's like you come with certain things that are easy, and you sometimes see that in your 3-year-old who skips across the carpet singing on tune, and you realize, one gift that this person has is that they're not tone deaf. you know
Yeah.
you start looking at the gifts that people bring, because when they're born, and when people have certain gifts, they have strengths that go along with them. And I think we have a society, and I know I had it going through school when I was a child, that expects you to absorb information and then be something you're innately not. Maybe society will tell you to be an accountant when you're an artist. Maybe society will tell you to be a secretary when you're a born leader. Maybe even your parents say, "Well, this is a better job than being an
Yeah.
artist.
Yeah.
This is a better thing for you to do." And so we channel people out of their strengths and into boxes that may or may not fit, or what I call a suit that doesn't fit. And there's a great
I like
story
that.
about this suit. This guy goes into his tailor to buy his suit, and they say, they have some on the rack, and they say, "Hey, try this. It's in your price range." And so the guy tries it on. One sleeve is too long, one is too short, and the pants are a little bit long. And so the sales guy says, "Well, just move your arms this way and bend over that way and tuck your leg up this way. And look how it fits beautifully. It's flat across your back. The sleeve length is perfect now." And so this person hobbles out of the store in this suit and passes these two women sitting in a stand waiting for the bus. And the one woman says to the other, "Oh, that did you see that poor man? Oh my God, he's so crippled." The other said, "Yeah, but doesn't the suit fit
Hmm.
nice?"
Wow.
Right? And so we put people into positions, and it often comes out of families
Yeah.
where people, it's not until they're in their 40s or 50s that they begin to do what they can to the planet to do. And so I think we have strengths, and we have uh, s- skills and interests and just things that are easy for us that we come on to the planet for. And even if it's a Down syndrome child, unconditional love and hugs might be why they're on the planet.
Yeah.
And so we don't really know what our strengths are. We get reasoned out of our strengths, which in many ways is the very source of our fire. It's the source of our creativity and purpose. So I was met with that question. It was like, why am I here? I was a bright kid. I could learn stuff. I mean, I could do quite a few things, but they weren't necessarily my strengths. And I really didn't have a sense of my own purpose. Why am I here? So I had to figure that out. And I was figuring that out before I asked the question.
Now, what were you doing to figure those things out? Because, I totally agree with you that when you aren't operating within your strengths and your gifts and your purpose, that something just feels off, or you feel like something is missing, you feel unfulfilled. So I think a lot of listeners would say, yes, operating within your strengths is going to be more fulfilling and rewarding than operating outside of your strengths. But how do you identify your strengths and your gifts, and ultimately, how do you land on what your purpose is?
I had a period during that time where I was going through a divorce. I was going to quit my job. I had a 2-year-old. and
Mm,
and so I was one of those examples of a hide stripping experience that got me to the core questions, and I
yeah.
don't believe people have to do that. The first thing I wanted to know is what I call sorting through the bones of my life, where I went back as long as I could remember and I wrote down all the things that gave me joy and happiness and that were easy for me.
That's powerful.
And I did. And I took a period of a couple of months to do this because I couldn't just sit at a table and it would come to me.
Yeah.
It had to come from more of an inspired space. And I realized that when I was 3, certain things were true and they were easy and it gave me joy and happiness. And then when I was a little older and upwards, and it started pointing me toward also those instances where I felt out of sync or at war with what was going on and around me, angry even. And those more difficult times really pointed me almost more closely to what my purpose was because something in there was agitating and not fitting for
Mm,
me. And so you take the good, you take the not so good times, and I learned from those times what it was that I was here to be part of. And what I learned what was one word, and that word is peace. That when I'm involved in activities that result in peace at some level, whether it's peace for a person that I am coaching or if it's peace between people in disagreement or peace within a group, within a business, so that what they produce is so much easier and so more ingenious and inventive. This gives me a real boost of energy. It's a confirmation. It's kind of like the fire in my belly.
yeah.
So then I started looking at the strengths I have that would help bring peace into more of my daily experience, my work experience, my family experience, etc. And I collected my strengths. And then I realized that leadership is something that I value. And I seem to be able to pull the best out of people in situations, and there's reasons for that. And I really didn't know what it was, but that's what set my direction. And I also learned from those times that weren't so comfortable and happy that there were values that were in clash with that situation. So I had to figure out what my personally held values are. What's non-negotiable for me?
I
I
like
had
that.
to learn what my purpose is, and that was a very much a self-reflection process of good and bad times. And then I started assessing my strengths. Well, I really didn't have any guide in this process. So it was very internal and it was very organic for me. So it was years later that I discovered Strength Finder. And if you haven't ever experienced Strength Finder, it's a tool from Gallup. And it's based on a series of tests or questions that point you toward what you are naturally good at, that point you toward where your phenomenal strengths and genius lie. And it was interesting. My own organic process that literally went on for a 3-year period during my education was pretty right on target with what Strength Finder discovered or helped me discover. So that's a great tool that I encourage people to use if they want to save a little time.
I like that. I will. I'll link to Strength Finder in the show notes.
And what is so nice about Strength Finder too, Matthew, is that they have come out with a version for children.
Oh wow, that's relevant to me because my wife and I will be having our first child in a couple of months.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited about this tool because we were just talking about how society and sometimes our parents with their most well-meaning advice because they want to see their kids be successful
Oh yeah.
and they want to see them in employable jobs, but they might not know what their children's strengths are. Or they might assume that those strengths are something that really isn't employable. you know? So,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
so they fit them into suits that don't fit.
Mm.
And as a result, you'll eventually figure it out if you're a self reflective person. But it would be nice to start from a solid footing rather than having to stumble through it and finding it.
Absolutely. And I love the visual you created by that story of the suit that didn't fit because I know personally I've absolutely worn on a suit because other people said that's a suit that I should wear. And I tell this to my wife, Sarah, all the time, just doing a little of my own self-reflection that I've been let go from all but 2 jobs I've had in my life. And I just think there was something about that suit of, working for somebody else that up until now has not fit me well. And when I was wearing that suit on, I was hobbling, and the suit might have looked nice. I had a job, I had a salary, I had benefits, but I was really having to contort myself to fit in that suit. So I think that's just a powerful visual that you gave to us.
Well, and I have a lot of conversations with people on LinkedIn who actually come to to my company and are looking for work, and it's interesting. So many of them have that stories of
Mm,
of working for a company that didn't in any way line up with their values,
yeah.
and I think it's a big mistake nowadays when you see companies that don't harness the entrepreneurial spirit of their employees. I mean, I have an example of a company that does that. It's in Maui, Hawaii, in a little town that is on the way to Hana. And this company has a bed and breakfast and dinner operation. It's called Mama's Fish House. It's either one or two in the country in terms of restaurants. And employees waiting tables, basically doing service industry work, have wonderful retirement incomes and have been with the company for years.
Oh, wow.
And what the owners have done that I think is absolutely ingenious is they'll find an employee who likes to garden, for example. And this one employee actually would wear these gorgeous flowers to work when she was waiting tables. And the owner would say, "Where did you get those gorgeous flowers?" And she says, "Right out of my garden, I grow them." So the owners created a contract with her to provide flowers for the women who work there every day
Oh, that's
and
very cool.
flowers for the room. So not only did this employee just love the work she was doing and kept on advancing through different positions in the company as now the head gardener. I mean,
I love
she's
that.
great. I absolutely love it. She loves it, and they're all paid well. And she was able to harness this entrepreneurial spirit that gave her some additional money for her family, but also she made everybody beautiful because
Mm,
she liked gardening because it was beauty.
mm. I love that.
Beauty was one of her values that the company captured and said, "Oh, we like that value too. Let's help you be more successful with it."
We know what's so important about this conversation about values is that if you don't know your values, if you aren't clear on your values, and if you haven't prioritized them, then it won't be as clear when those values are not being met. I say as clear because you'll feel it in your gut when the business that you work for, the school that you attend, or I mean, let's be real, even your spouse. When your spouse doesn't meet your values, like you'll feel it in your gut. But if you don't actually have them written down on paper, you won't know for certain. You can't say, "I'm going to pull out my values, you pull out your values, and let's see what they look like." So I think it's so important for people to actually go through the process like you did of thinking through, listing out their values, and then prioritizing them.
Well, exactly. And sometimes it's not even a priority. For me, it was a non-negotiable value to blindside people.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And there's a lot of information about violating your values or letting your values be eroded in the addiction literature, the literature around codependency.
Mm,
And when people, and it's true, I've heard people who said, "Oh my gosh, I worked for this company. My values were eroded and eroded and eroded. And I felt like I was between a hard rock and a hard spot, and I just wanted to die." And that often happens. That is a feeling of people who allow their values to be eroded over time. So it's, yes, I believe in a prioritization because there's a give and take on in the world, but you got to be able to reclaim that self that has been diminished literally by letting somebody kind of walk over your values.
So, you've got an idea for a business, the store of your dreams. There's just one thing to figure out: everything. That's why Shopify's all-in-one commerce platform makes it easy to sell online, in person, and everywhere else. Sell on social media, source products with an app to get that first sale feeling. It's the only solution that gives you everything you need to sell everywhere you want. So when you're ready to bring your idea to life, power it up with Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And I really do think that if this was an exercise in college, be it marketing, be it life sciences, be whatever it is, health, that the exercise in knowing your values, even as a teenager, is important because there's so much out there that's going to test that resolve. And I think oftentimes it's value clashes that people encounter that lead to divorce more than anything else. We just don't
That's
know
powerful.
ourself. We don't know ourself. And we don't know our what's important and non-negotiable. I mean, a value is a non-negotiable thing.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, when we haven't spent the time to investigate and look at those things, then the clashes are going to happen. It's not even an if, it's when those clashes are going to happen. One thing that I really like about how you've described this process you went through is you use very proactive language. And I want to highlight that because this whole process of, self-discovery, self-actualization, growth and healing, it is something that requires proactivity. It's not one of those things that you can just sit back and wait to happen to you. And I think that's so important because I know there's people listening, because I was in this place myself, that I just wished things would happen to me in this way that would leave me feeling more self-actualized. And it doesn't happen that way. So I appreciate you, Dianne, for using proactive language, because that's what you need to be. You need to be proactive to pull yourself out of those work environments that don't honor you, or to sit down and actually investigate your values and ask your spouse to do the same thing. Like, we need to be proactive in these things if our goal is to improve our experience of life.
Well, and if we even take that we could take it into a business context, and we can also take it into what is an American value, a U.S. value, which is freedom, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you put yourself in a position where you can no longer have free choice because you're on the track of acquiring things, thinking that's the track to having it all, you oftentimes are in relationships, let's say with business, where you can't quit because you're working for money. You don't have money working for you. When you have money working for you, in my view, that's what gives your life freedom.
Oof, I love that. That's powerful stuff right there. And I absolutely agree. 110%.
But you'll have, as a teenager, as a child watching TV, you have society telling you that to acquire things means that you will have it all.
Yes,
You
yes.
so I think the point I really want to make here is that having it all is an inside out activity. And you're right, it can't be laid on you. It's something that you discover yourself. And in that preparation, amazing things show up. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a useless exercise. For me, it was almost phenomenal instant business success.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So going through this process to you led to business success. Like you can correlate them one to one.
I can correlate it one to one, but there was, I went through a period of work. I had my question. Then I had to find out the answer to the question. Then I had to determine if that answer to the question was really true. And so there was a 4-year period of chopping wood and carrying water, living in accordance to my values, looking at times that I had allowed my values to be eroded, which creates anger, and you store it, you stuff it, and you let that stuff go. So it's a probably, I call it my inward journey to facing my unhealthy tiger.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of like Mowgli walking into the jungle and ending up eye to eye with Shere Khan. It it can be scary. It can be unnerving. It can be so rewarding and so life affirming and freeing that there is an end at a light at the end of the tunnel. And I wish we would have these conversations when our youth are at the age of exploring independence in themselves. And that, quite frankly, as the brain develops and cognitively happens, is around 7th or 8th grade. So as we start developing independent people who are experiencing the cause and effect of their choices, and we don't take those causes and effects away from them, I think when they go through that period of independence and self-reflection and self-identity and learn what their values are, and they learn what their purpose is, what their strengths are that support that purpose, and that it's more than just making money and having things, that I think we will find the type of people coming out of colleges that are already of a collaborative mindset. And I also think that we'll probably see a big reduction in the divorce rate in this country.
Those are two things that I imagine anybody with kids or married absolutely wants to experience. Those are, kids coming out of college who know themselves more fully, and to have a healthy and thriving marriage. And what I'm hearing you say is, if we focus on looking at those things like values and purpose early on, then we can expect to experience those outcomes.
Exactly. And I think that, and we can look at our business community as an example of how well we're doing.
That's interesting. Talk to me about that.
Well, if you think about it, most businesses have their purpose statement,
Yeah.
their mission statement, their value statements, and they're all words on a wall.
Yes, literally in most cases.
They're words on a wall. I don't know how many companies I've gone into initially where I'll ask somebody, and I love to ask janitors, and I love to ask people that are kind of the invisible people in the company, and I'll say, well, what values does your company stand for? And they'll tell me making money for themselves, not me. I'm not getting any of it.
Wow.
They basically it's not real.
Yeah, it's just words on a wall.
It's just words on a wall. So when you expect to have it laid on you, and you're not going inside from the inside out to discover it, it's just going to be words on the wall.
I think the same can be said for people when they do go down this path of discovering themselves. To think about your values is great. To write your values down is even greater. But then I think there's another step, and that's really internalizing them, so that your values or your purpose or your mission statement or, whatever it is, your goals, whatever it is, they just don't become words on a piece of paper. Like you need to take that extra step to really internalize those things so that, they're there.
Well, and the magic of it is they're already there.
Yeah.
You just have to find them.
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier on about that feeling of fear and almost discomfort, like Mowgli stepping into the unknown, stepping into the jungle. And it makes me think of a quote that you wrote to me in one of our conversations a while ago. And I want to now read it to you, and I want to ask you, what does this quote mean? So the quote is from M. Scott Peck, and the quote is, "Our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers." So what does that mean to you, Dianne?
Well, that's exactly what happened to me, because when we're comfortable, why change it? It's happy. It's go lucky. You've got your little bag of pedals and skipping around, dropping your pedals everywhere, and that's great. We need those times. That's what keeps us sane. It's the times of deep discontent that you can you have some choices around deep discontent. You can blame others for it. You can say, what is this here to teach me? Where's the pony in the pile here? Where is this opportunity here? What is this telling me? What do I have to learn from this? Or you can ignore it. Drink more, take drugs, do all of the numbing things that people do to not feel. And I think facing it and saying, what does this have to teach me? There's something here that I can learn from is important, because and you don't become a victim to it when you do that also.
Absolutely. It's funny when you talk about those three different options, because in my life, in my journey, I ignored it. I ignored those things, those uncomfortable things in my life, and it really started probably in college. And the way that I would ignore it, I would smoke pot. So
there you go.
Weed was my thing, and I just would turn to that whenever I was feeling that little pinch of Matthew, you're not facing something. Boom. I would immediately go and I'd get high. And I did that for years, up until one point where it kind of was like an avalanche of realization of what I was doing. It was like, oh my gosh, this is why you're doing it. It's no longer a social thing. All the rationalizing that you did doesn't mean anything. And so I gave it up cold turkey. But for a long time, for years, I chose option number 3 from what you listed, and I just ignored it. And I got nowhere fast by doing that.
Yeah. And that is a choice. It's a choice that people make every single solitary day.
It is.
And one of the things when I was validating my research and chopping wood, carrying water, I began teaching transformation classes and transition classes for a community college. I had just gone through this process myself of inner reflection and was just on fire with finding my own solutions. And so I was teaching those solutions to people who, in the Reagan administration, were being kicked off of long-term welfare. And I met a lot of people, both men and women, who had been seriously put into tiny little boxes, and sometimes very cruelly, as children. And I think finding the pony in the pile almost became a banner cry, because that is so empowering, because you step out of that box completely. And that rut that Scott Peck's talking about, in terms of, it's those times of real uncomfortable, sometimes panicky situations, that when you stand to face it, sometimes it feels like you've just jumped off the trapeze and you don't see any handhold coming at you.
No.
But you realize that you have your being will never give you more than what you can handle. And I really believe that in those broken situations that I was dealing with people, as they resolved them, the power that they move forward with in life was amazing, because it transforms kind of feeling like a victim and blaming other people for your problems. It feels like now I have wisdom around this and I actually can move forward. The box explodes, and it's a wonderful experience. But again, it's not always easy and it's not always comfortable, but sometimes that's what we need.
Yeah. And I think that the more significant the growth and healing that is going to happen, the more uncomfortable and the more scary the thing is that you're facing. Like, the bigger the lion is that you're going up against, or I guess in Jungle Book it's a tiger. The bigger the tiger is. But when you do look at that fear, when you do summon up your courage to move through that situation, what is on the other side is so incredible. And you're right, the box explodes. It's an amazing feeling. And I absolutely know right now there are people listening who are in the midst of one of their biggest fears. They're going through that situation. And I recommend heed Dianne's advice and move through it, move with it. And, it's that ego, like your ego believes that, I think this is my belief, that the ego will flare up, and the ego's biggest fear is that you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's the absolute worst thing that can happen from facing your fear, is that you will die. And you know what? If that happens, then you don't really have to worry about facing the fear anyway,
Well, and it's interesting that you talk about the ego, because there was a point in my own process of where I actually said vocally to my ego, "You are so smart. You are so big. You have been so protective. And guess what? It's awful. I am so sorry. I gave you the wrong program."
Wow.
This is the way we're headed. You're so strong and smart. Get us there. And it was, it's like, okay, right. That inner tiger was in very much my ego.
Yeah.
And uh, that's how we kind of got out of the jungle.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, Dianne, we've gone way past the mark that I told you we would stop at earlier before we started recording. So I do have one more question for you, and I'm really curious. What is your big why in life? What is that thing that lights you up and that you're most passionate about right now?
Well, my why is getting into the hands of as many people on the planet as I can tigers, which is building communities and building relationships that are founded in trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk, and success. And it's almost an epic challenge right now, because I am connecting all the little sales dots and things that are outside my strengths right now, to make sure that when it all comes together, I've got something that I can hand to the people with the strengths and say, go for it.
That's amazing. So if people wanted to learn more about you and what you do and learn about tigers, where can they go?
They can go to Core Values, CoreValues.com. And that would be the first stop, or they could send me an invite to connect on LinkedIn.
Hey.
At Dianne Crampton, Dianne. That's two N's in Dianne. Crampton, Cram as in Mary, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, O-N as in Nancy.
I love that. And I will put links to the Core Values website, as well as your LinkedIn. If you want me to, I can put a link in the show notes, and people can.
Absolutely. I love it when people, as wonderful as you, Matthew, step out of the morass of I don't know what you call social networks, and actually forge wonderful, thoughtful conversations and collaboration.
Oh, we've certainly had some wonderful conversations. I think that's an understatement. And I know that this is going to spark off just an amazing amount of synergy and collaboration between the two of us, because like we said at the top of this episode, this is the first time we have had a verbal conversation. That's awesome.
That's right. And I want a birth announcement.
Yes, you will. I will absolutely be sending you one of those. And so before we leave, I would like for you to just leave us with a nugget of wisdom, something that we can chew on throughout the day, that you want to impart on myself and the listeners.
Be well. Be well. Be well. Be well with yourself. Be well with your health. Be well with your spirituality. Be well mentally. Be well emotionally. Be well. And then you'll do well.
I love that. Well, Dianne, I cannot thank you enough for carving out some time to jump off of LinkedIn and hop onto Skype and chat with me today. Thank you so much.
It's my joy.
Wonderful. Two quick things before you leave. First, Did you know that the Having It All podcast is a part of the Fireside Network? Yep, that's right. We are one of the shows that calls Fireside Network home. That means if you ever want to listen to a show outside of iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, all you have to do is visit www.firesidenetwork.com/having it all. From there, you can access all of the episodes, see the show notes, learn about my guests, and more. Second, we also have a standalone website for Having It All, where you can learn about me, discover how we further our mission at Having It All, and pick up some free content around creating your ideal life and just experiencing life more powerfully. You can find that at www.havingitall.co. Again, that's www.havingitall.co. Thanks again for listening to the show. Here's to you having it all.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.